Hello and welcome to your midweek message for this week. Last week I introduced you to 3 authors and 3 different books. I'm going to do again the same thing this week. 3 new authors, 3 new books. One of these authors is not at all recent. One is more recent and one is still writing and active. So the first, the earliest, and I'm sure most of you will have probably heard of the name of Malcolm Muggeridge. This is the book Jesus Rediscovered, and you can see it's a little older book. It's the pages are kind of yellowed. This book was published in 1969. It's so old that I paid $3.95 for this copy. And it's a beautifully written book. Malcolm Muggeridge was a journalist, so he had certainly expressive writing, beautiful writing, and it's a devotional book, not a difficult read, but a sizable volume. Then that's quite an accessible book. The second one is kind of the opposite. You may or may not have heard of Alfred North Whitehead, but Alfred North Whitehead is a very important thinker and one of those authors who is mostly known by people who've never read anything by him. This is one of his smaller books. It's a fairly slim volume. But he's also written some extremely hefty tomes. Alfred North Whitehead is the originator of something known as process theology, and that flowed out of his writings in process philosophy. Whitehead is a believer. He was a believer. And he wrote from the standpoint of his own faith, but he wrote in very deeply philosophical language. It is complex, dense, heavy writing. If you're going to read a Whitehead, expect it to take a while. The most notorious of his books is called Process and Reality. Process and Reality is his best known book, and probably least widely read book. It took me 3 attempts and then a class to finally help me get through the book. And I am beginning to understand it. Process thought is a very deep insight into the way the universe is. And it is his point that all of reality is relationships, not stuff. We have the illusion that this world is solid and material, but really all that exists is relationships. The proton, the electron, and the neutron create something because they are in relationship with one another. It's a heavy, heavy concept. But it is also a beautiful way of looking at the world and seeing the world as interrelated in a profound, foundational way. So that's Alfred North Whitehead. The third and final author we're going to talk about is someone that some of you have already run into. This is a book from 2017 by Brian Harden. Now, we were studying just before the pandemic a little red book by Brian Harden titled Passages. And it is about his experience doing the daily audio Bible, where he read sections of the Bible every day, and over the course of 1 year, read through the entirety of the Bible. Each day, a passage from the Old Testament, a passage from the Psalms, and a passage from the New Testament. So over the course of 365 days, we would actually go through the Old Testament, the New Testament, and twice through the Psalms. And that book passages is about his experience and how that transformed his life and his understanding of the Bible. This book, Sneezing Jesus, is a wonderful book about the incarnation, about God becoming flesh, God becoming human, and hallowing all of humanity through taking on our humanity. It is, in typical fashion, quite gorgeous writing and quite inspiring. Brian is very deeply devotional, and I think, be able to recommend pretty much anything Brian Harden has written. It's not always easy to find his things, but you can find them if you look. He's hard to pin down in terms of where he comes from. He's very much not committed to any doctrinal positions that are not easily affirmed by just about any part of the church. He's quite an interesting fellow in that his writing is deep and profound in its emotion and in its inspiration without being offensive. That's quite difficult to do. So there you go. 3 more authors, 3 more books. Thank you for your time, and may you find something that inspires and builds you up in this season. Amen.